Welcome back, fellow seekers of the shadows. You've tuned into Stories of Crime, the place where the veil between the mundane and the monstrous is brutally ripped away. Tonight, we aren't just reading a report. We are opening a file, marked top priority, tucked away in the darkest corner of the archives. We're going to step across that chalk line and peer into the void, where human nature meets its most terrifying extremes. In this hour, the street lights flicker, the shadows deepen, and the truth is often far more chilling than any fiction you could invent. Forget the heroes. Tonight, we focus on the villains. On the motives that curdle the blood, and the consequences that echo forever. So, dim the lights. Lock your doors. Take a deep, steadying breath, because once the story begins, there's no turning back. This is Stories of Crime. And the case we're unfolding tonight is poetry. Look, the heartbeat of language. Welcome, fellow explorer of the boundless human spirit, to poetry, a journey into the very essence of what makes us feel, think, and dream. Today, we delve into the core of how language, when wielded with intention, can capture the listener's imagination through its raw, undeniable power. Imagine a world before written words, where stories were sung, emotions painted in rhythm, and community woven through shared verbal artistry. This isn't just about understanding poems, it's about reclaiming a fundamental human connection, a way of seeing and feeling that speaks directly to the soul. We are unwrapping the enigma of the hook, that initial, irresistible pull that binds our attention, electrifies our senses, and makes us lean in, hungry for more. It's the whisper that becomes a roar, the delicate touch that leaves an indelible mark, ensuring resonance long after the final word has faded. Now, close your eyes for a moment, and simply listen. Let these words wash over you, not as mere sounds, but as a current carrying feeling, image, and forgotten memory. The wind, a whisper, through the ancient oak, each leaf a story, silently bespoke. A shiver tracing down the spine of thought, by unseen currents, meaning swiftly caught. Conceptual explanation, that short passage is designed to be more than just syllables. It's an immediate invitation, an atmospheric immersion. The hook in poetry often begins with such a moment, a sensory detail, a striking image, or a compelling rhythm that arrests the mind and opens the heart. It's about creating an instantaneous connection, bypassing intellectual guard and landing directly in the realm of raw emotion. We're not asking the listener to analyze, we're asking them to experience. This initial impact is foundational, setting the tone for what is to follow. It needs to be potent, singular, and deeply felt. It's the opening chord of a symphony, hinting at grandeur and complexity. Real-world practical example, think about how a skilled storyteller begins. Not with dry facts, but perhaps, it was a night when the moon hung low, like a bruised apple in a velvet sky, and a silence so profound you could hear your own heartbeat echo. This is an immediate scene setter, drawing you in with evocative imagery and palpable atmosphere. In song, it's the memorable riff or first line of a chorus. In poetry, it's the stanza that makes you pause, rewind, and read again, savoring its texture and resonance. It's the poetic equivalent of a perfectly timed breath, making you an active participant from the first utterance. Why it matters deep dive. This initial hook matters profoundly as the gateway to deeper understanding and appreciation. In a world saturated with distractions, the ability to instantly captivate an audience is invaluable, especially in poetry. If a poem fails to hook early, it risks being dismissed as abstract or irrelevant. A strong hook transforms the abstract into the tangible, the distant into the intimate. It proves poetry isn't just for academics, it's for anyone with a heart and mind open to beauty and truth. It validates the act of reading or listening, promising a reward beyond mere information, a genuine encounter with art. It establishes an emotional contract, a silent agreement between creator and receiver, that something profoundly meaningful will transpire. Without this foundational connection, subsequent layers of meaning, metaphor, and theme can easily be lost to indifference. Now, let's turn that lens inward. When was the last time a sequence of words gave you goosebumps? Really, think about it. That visceral reaction, the hair standing on end, the sudden chill, the catching of breath, is not merely a biological response. It is the body's undeniable testament to the profound emotional and psychological impact of language. It's the brain and heart conspiring to signal something extraordinary, deeply resonant, has just occurred, forcing your attention. Conceptual explanation. This rhetorical question isn't meant to elicit a specific answer, but to trigger introspection. Introduction. Walking the path of verse. Welcome, fellow travelers, to a journey unlike any other. Cast aside any dusty notions of poetry as a relic confined to academic halls or obscure anthologies. Forget the intimidating whispers of impenetrable verses and elitist interpretations. This, my friends, is not that journey. This is an invitation to walk a vibrant, living path, a path woven with words, illuminated by insight, and resonant with the very heartbeat of human experience. My name is narrator's name. Self-correction. The prompt did not ask for a narrator's name, so I will omit it and refer to myself as I or we to maintain the fellow traveler persona, and I am not here as a distant professor, perched on a podium, dictating timeless truths from an unassailable height. No. Think of me, instead, as a seasoned companion, a fellow wanderer who has spent years delighting in the textures of language, tracing the intricate patterns of metaphor, and marveling at the sheer power a well-placed word can wield. We are embarking together, side by side, into the boundless landscape of verse. My love for words is a shared passion, a spark I hope to ignite or rekindle in each of you. This isn't about me teaching you, it's about us discovering, exploring, and marveling together. I am merely holding the lantern, pointing out the breathtaking vistas and the hidden treasures along the way. Why does this distinction matter, you might ask? Because approaching poetry as a co-explorer rather than a passive student transforms the entire experience. It removes the pressure of getting it right and replaces it with the joy of getting to explore. When you feel free to engage, to question, to even stumble, the gates to genuine understanding swing wide open. Imagine walking through a dense, ancient forest with a guide who knows every tree, every creature, every secret path. They don't just lecture you about botany, they point out the iridescent beetle on a leaf, share the legend of a gnarled oak, and invite you to touch the rough bark. That's our journey. It's hands-on, heart-on, and soul-on. This collaborative spirit ensures that poetry, often perceived as daunting, becomes accessible, personal, and profoundly enriching. It cultivates an environment where curiosity thrives and where the act of engaging with verse feels less like a task and more like a profound conversation with humanity itself. It matters because true appreciation blooms from personal connection, not from prescribed understanding. Our path through this verdant landscape of poetry will be multifaceted, deliberate, and deeply engaging. We will trace the historical footprints of verse, journeying through time to understand how poetry has mirrored and molded civilizations. We will dissect the subtle, often invisible techniques that give a poem its unique flavor and resonance. We'll examine the myriad forms poetry can take, from the rigid elegance of a sonnet to the boundless freedom of free verse, appreciating each for its distinct architecture and expressive potential. And, most importantly, we will delve into the very soul of writing, the impulse, the emotion, the profound human need that drives us to encapsulate the ineffable within the confines of language. This roadmap isn't a rigid itinerary, it's a compass, guiding us towards a holistic understanding. Let's begin by considering the historical dimension. Poetry isn't static, it's a living archive, continuously evolving. It has chronicled epic sagas of heroes and gods in ancient Mesopotamia, whispered the existential doubts of medieval monks, sung the passionate odes of Renaissance lovers, and shouted the revolutionary fervor of modern activists. For instance, think of Homer's Odyssey, recited for centuries before it was ever written down. It wasn't just a story, it was a cultural touchstone, a moral compass, and a foundational text that shaped Western literature. It employed rhythmic structures and formulaic epithets not merely for beauty, but as mnemonic devices to aid performance and memory in an oral tradition. Later, consider the Japanese haiku, a form B. Chapter 1, Defining the Indefinable. Welcome, dear listener, to a journey not just into the mechanics of words, but into the very heart of human expression. We embark today on Chapter 1, Defining the Indefinable. It's a bold title, perhaps even a touch presumptuous, to suggest we can pin down something as elusive and ethereal as poetry. Yet, here we are, ready to explore what poetry actually is, how it whispers through time from ancient roots, and why it continues to resonate with us, generation after generation. Imagine, if you will, a time before written language, before books, before even the simplest stylus etched symbols onto clay. Picture our ancestors gathered around a flickering fire, the vast, star-dusted canopy of night overhead, the only sound the crackle of burning wood and the distant cries of nocturnal creatures. In those primordial shadows, stories were born. They weren't just spoken, they were chanted, sung, repeated with rhythmic cadence. This wasn't merely information transfer, it was an act of communal memory, a way to imprint wisdom, history, and emotion onto the collective consciousness. This, my friends, is where poetry begins, in the human voice, in the shared breath, in the primal need to give form and feeling to the formless and felt. Let's delve deeper into these origins, specifically in the oral tradition and the intimacy of campfire stories. Conceptual explanation: poetry, in its earliest form, wasn't a static text on a page. It was a dynamic, live performance. It thrived on memorization and repetition, which is naturally aided by rhythm, rhyme, and specific patterns of speech. These elements made complex narratives, historical accounts, and mythological tales easier to recall and pass down through generations, ensuring cultural continuity. The very structure of early poetry served as a mnemonic device, a vessel for collective memory. It wasn't an academic pursuit, it was a societal cornerstone. Practical example: consider the epic poems of Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey. These monumental works, though eventually written down, existed for centuries as oral traditions, recited by rhapsodes, professional storytellers, who would embellish and adapt the tales for their audiences. The dactylic hexameter, the characteristic meter of these epics, isn't just a fancy academic term, it's a rhythmic structure perfectly suited for long, dramatic recitation, allowing the performer to maintain a steady pace and the audience to follow the intricate narrative. Think of the repeated epithets, swift-footed Achilles or rosy-fingered Dawn. These weren't mere stylistic choices, they were rhythmic anchors, signposts in the oral landscape, aiding both reciter and listener. Another powerful example is the traditional praise poetry found in many African cultures, where a griot, a West African storyteller, musician, and praise singer, uses intricate verbal artistry, rhythm, and repetition to recite genealogies, celebrate heroes, and recount history. These performances are deeply immersive, often accompanied by music, creating an almost trance-like state, a shared experience that transcends mere words. Why it matters: understanding poetry's oral roots fundamentally shifts our perception of it. It moves poetry from the realm of dry academic study to a vibrant, living art form. It reminds us that poetry is inherently musical, inherently embodied. It is designed to be heard, to be felt, to move through the air and into the listener's soul. This deep connection to oral tradition underscores poetry's power to bind communities, to preserve identity, and to transmit the most profound human experiences across time. It explains why even today, a well-read poem can stir something within us that a silent reading sometimes cannot quite reach. It's the echo of those ancient campfires, that primal human connection through shared sound and story. Now, let's turn our attention to a crucial distinction: how poetry stands apart from prose. Often, when people think of poetry, they immediately think of rhyming words or lines broken at peculiar points. While these see. Chapter 2, The Poet's Eye. Welcome back, fellow travelers on this poetic journey. In our first chapter, we laid the groundwork, understanding that poetry is not merely words on a page, but a vibrant conduit for human experience. We explored the deep emotional resonance, the intellectual challenge, and the sheer joy that poetry can bring into our lives, both as readers and as nascent creators. We acknowledged the inherent human desire to express, to capture fleeting moments, and to find meaning in the often chaotic symphony of existence. Today, we delve into what I consider to be the very genesis of all compelling poetry, the indispensable first step for anyone aspiring to weave words into something truly memorable: learning to observe the world with heightened attention. This is Chapter 2, The Poet's Eye. Imagine, for a moment, a crowded city street. The cacophony of horns, the blur of faces, the hurried footsteps, the omnipresent scent of exhaust fumes mingling with the faint aroma of a distant coffee shop. Most people navigate this landscape in a semi-conscious haze, their minds already elsewhere, focused on destinations or distractions. They see, yes, but they do not truly perceive. They register the general impression, perhaps the large billboard, the glaring traffic light, the broad strokes of urban life. But what if you could peel back that layer of everyday indifference? What if you could pause, not just physically, but mentally, and truly see the world as if for the very first time? This is the poet's gift, and it is a gift that can be cultivated by anyone willing to slow down, to engage deeply, and to embrace a deliberate, almost meditative form of looking. It is the ability to transform the mundane into the magnificent, to uncover the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. It's about shifting from merely witnessing to actively perceiving, from superficial scanning to profound engagement. This transformative process is not instantaneous. It requires practice, patience, and a genuine curiosity about the intricate tapestries that make up our daily lives. The poet's eye doesn't just look, it investigates, it questions, it seeks the story beneath the surface, the unspoken narrative of every object, every interaction, every fleeting moment. Our first step in developing this heightened sense of awareness is to teach ourselves the art of noticing details that others effortlessly miss. This goes beyond simple observation. It is a conscious act of engagement, a deliberate slowing down of perception to capture the nuances, the subtle shifts, the often overlooked textures and implications of our surroundings. It means stripping away the preconceived notions, the automatic categorizations, and the mental shortcuts our brains so efficiently employ to navigate an overwhelmingly complex world. Instead of seeing a tree, the poet's eye searches for the specific configuration of its bark, the way sunlight filters through its unique canopy, the intricate pattern of its branching, the particular shade of green on its leaves at this precise moment, the way it responds to the gentle caress of a breeze. It's about pushing past the generic label and diving into the singular, specific reality of the thing itself. This acute sensitivity to detail is the bedrock upon which vivid and resonant imagery is built. Without it, our descriptions remain vague, our metaphors uninspired, and our poetry struggles to achieve genuine impact. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're walking along a familiar street, one you've traversed countless times. Instead of just seeing the sidewalk, pause and truly look at a single crack in the pavement. Most people would label it simply as a crack and move on, perhaps annoyed by its presence. But the poet's eye lingers. What do you see? Is it a sharp, jagged fissure, or a winding, serpentine split? Does it branch out like a miniature river delta, or does it plunge deep into the asphalt like a sudden canyon? What color is the debris caught within it? Tiny specks of glittering quartz, dried leaves, or perhaps a miniature R. Chapter 3, The Rhythm of Breath. Chapter 3, The Rhythm of Breath. Welcome back, dear listener, to Poetry, our ongoing exploration of the literary art form that breathes life into words. In our previous chapters, we delved into the foundational elements, understanding how individual words carry weight and how imagery paints vivid landscapes within the mind's eye. Today, however, we embark on a journey that takes us beyond the visual and into the visceral, into the very pulse of poetry. We're going to tune into the rhythm of breath, a chapter dedicated to understanding meter, beat, and the profound, often subconscious, physical sensation of reading and hearing a poem. Imagine for a moment, not a painting, but a piece of music. What makes a symphony soar, or a simple folk tune resonate deep within your soul? It's often not just the melody, but the rhythm, the tempo, the very beat that gives it structure and emotional force. Poetry is no different. It possesses an internal music, a carefully orchestrated rhythm that can quicken your pulse, soothe your anxieties, or stir your deepest contemplative thoughts. This rhythm is the breath of the poem, and understanding it is key to unlocking a richer, more embodied experience of poetic art. It's about feeling the poem not just in your mind, but in your chest, in your voice, even in the sway of your body. We will dissect the mechanics, yes, but always with an eye toward how these mechanics translate into a living, breathing, emotive experience. This isn't just theory, it's an invitation to feel poetry in a way you may not have before. Let's begin by demystifying one of the most frequently encountered, yet often intimidating, terms in poetry: iambic pentameter. For many, these words conjure images of dusty textbooks and complex diagrams, but I promise you, it's far simpler and much more intuitive than it sounds. Think of it not as a rigid rule, but as a natural, almost biological pattern, much like the steady, comforting thrum of a human heartbeat. A heartbeat has a distinct rhythm, da-dum. A soft beat, followed by a stronger, stressed beat. That, my friends, is an iamb. An iamb is a metrical foot consisting of one unstressed syllable followed by one stressed syllable. It's the sound of a natural intake and exhalation, the fundamental rhythm of life. Now, what about pentameter? The prefix penta- means 5. So, pentameter simply means 5 of these iambic feet. Put it all together, an iambic pentameter is a line of poetry composed of 5 unstressed stressed pairs, resulting in a total of 10 syllables per line, with a distinctive da-dum, 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 da-dum cadence. Let's try a practical example, one you might recognize. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? If you say it aloud, paying attention to the natural stresses, you'll hear it. Shall I compare thee to a some/mare's day? Each of those stressed syllables falls naturally on the beat, creating a familiar, almost conversational rhythm. Another classic, but soft, /what light /through yon /der wind /dow breaks. This rhythm is so prevalent in English poetry, particularly in Shakespeare, because it closely mimics the natural cadence of spoken English, making it feel organic and accessible, even while elevating the language. It's a rhythm that grounds the words, allowing complex ideas to flow with a sense of inevitability. Why does this matter? Why bother with such seemingly arcane terms? Understanding iambic pentameter, and indeed all forms of meter, allows you to hear the poet's intentional music. It's the difference between hearing random notes and recognizing a carefully composed melody. When you recognize the iambic beat, you begin to appreciate how poets like Shakespeare used it to imbue their lines with a sense of dignity, natural speech, and dramatic impact. It's a rhythm that can feel steady, strong, and often quite dramatic, carrying the weight of profound statements or intense emotions without rushing. It contributes to the poem's overall emotional resonance, creating an expectation in the listener that is either full-fi. Chapter 4, The Symphony of Sound. Chapter 4, The Symphony of Sound. Welcome to Chapter 4, The Symphony of Sound, where we delve into the profound musicality woven into the very fabric of poetry. Imagine for a moment a master composer, not with notes and instruments, but with words themselves. This composer understands that language isn't merely a vehicle for meaning, it is a vibrant palette of sounds, each capable of evoking feeling, rhythm, and atmosphere. Today, we're going to uncover the instruments in the poet's sonic orchestra: rhyme, alliteration, and assonance. These are not merely decorative flourishes, they are fundamental tools for shaping emotional landscapes, guiding the reader's experience, and embedding meaning far deeper than surface interpretation. We'll move beyond the simplicity of childhood verses to explore the sophisticated dance of sound that gives poetry its unique power, its unforgettable resonance, and its truly visceral impact. Prepare to listen to language in an entirely new way, to feel its texture, and to understand its subtle yet profound influence. Let's begin our exploration with rhyme, a concept often introduced in our earliest encounters with poetry, yet one that holds immense depth when wielded with precision and purpose. At its core, rhyme is the repetition of similar sounding words, occurring at the end of lines or within them, creating an echo that delights the ear and binds the poem together. Think beyond the simple AABB of a nursery rhyme. True mastery of rhyme involves choosing words that not only sound alike but also enhance the poem's theme, rhythm, and emotional weight. A perfect rhyme, where the stressed vowel sound and all subsequent sounds are identical, like cat and hat, offers a sense of completion and harmony. However, more nuanced forms exist, such as slant rhyme, also known as near rhyme or half rhyme, where the sounds are similar but not identical, providing a subtle resonance rather than a jarring clang. Consider, for instance, Emily Dickinson's brilliant use of slant rhyme, where gate might rhyme with mad, or soul with all. This technique introduces a delicate tension, a whispered suggestion of connection rather than an explicit declaration, compelling the reader to lean in, to listen more intently for the subtle interplay of sound and meaning. Why does this matter so profoundly? Rhyme serves as an organizational principle, guiding the reader's ear and eye, creating expectations, and satisfying them, or sometimes deliberately subverting them for dramatic effect. It lends memorability, embedding phrases and ideas into our minds with an almost melodic persistence. More importantly, rhyme can forge thematic connections, linking disparate concepts through their shared sound, making the underlying message more potent and interconnected. It imbues a poem with a sense of closure, a musicality that makes the words sing and resonate long after they have been read. Next, we turn our attention to alliteration, the delightful repetition of an initial consonant sound in multiple words within a phrase or line. This sonic device is often highly visible, creating a strong, almost percussive beat within the poem. Think of the classic example, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Here, the repeated P sound creates a playful, almost tongue-twisting effect, emphasizing the words and accelerating the rhythm. But alliteration's power extends far beyond mere lightheartedness. A poet might use the repeated S sound, known as sibilance, to create a sinister, whispering effect, as in the silent snake slithered stealthily through the shadows. Conversely, the hard K or C sound can convey a sense of harshness or abruptness. Cruel fate crushed his core convictions. Why does alliteration matter so significantly in the poet's toolkit? It draws immediate attention to specific words, emphasizing their importance and impact. It can establish a powerful mood or atmosphere, whether it's the gentle calm of repeated L sounds or the urgent drive of repeated T sounds. Alliteration binds phrases to jet. Chapter 5, Painting with Words. Chapter 5, Painting with Words. Welcome back, fellow travelers on this poetic journey. In our last chapter, we explored the foundational elements, the very bedrock upon which great verse is built. Now, we arrive at a chapter I find particularly exhilarating, one where the craft truly transforms into an art form. Imagine, if you will, standing before a vast, blank canvas. In one hand, you hold a brush, in the other, a palette gleaming with an infinite array of hues. Your mission? To paint a world, an emotion, a fleeting moment, not with oils or watercolors, but with words. This is Painting with Words, our deep dive into mastering imagery, metaphor, and simile, the vibrant pigments of poetry. These tools are not mere embellishments, they are the very essence of vivid communication. They allow you to transcend the mundane, to bypass simple description, and to plunge your reader directly into an experience. We're moving beyond telling stories and into showing them, inviting our audience to see, hear, feel, taste, and even smell the worlds we meticulously construct within our minds. This chapter is about sharpening your perception, broadening your imaginative reach, and ultimately, about gifting your reader not just information, but immersion. It's about transforming the abstract into the tangible, the thought into the felt, the concept into the lived reality. Prepare to discover how language, wielded with precision and passion, can create indelible images and profound connections. Let's begin by unpicking one of the most fundamental shifts in poetic technique, the crucial difference between telling a feeling and showing an image. This distinction is paramount. When you tell a feeling, you offer a direct statement about an internal state. For instance, you might write, "She was sad," or "He felt angry." These sentences convey information, yes, but they don't evoke anything specific within the reader. They are declarations, flat and undemanding. The reader understands the emotion intellectually, but doesn't necessarily experience it. There's no visceral connection, no shared tremor of empathy. Now, consider the power of showing an image. Instead of stating she was sad, you might describe, "Her shoulders sag, a shadow stretching across her face as if draped there by an unseen hand. Her gaze, unfocused, traced the slow descent of a single tear, mirroring the rain streaking down the cold window pane." Do you feel the difference? Here, no direct mention of sadness is made. Yet, through concrete sensory details, the sagging shoulders, the shadow, the unfocused gaze, the tear, the rain, the feeling of profound sorrow is not just understood, but actively felt. The reader participates in constructing that emotion within their own mind, drawing on their own experiences of such details. This method is infinitely more engaging, more powerful, and far more memorable. Why does this matter so profoundly in poetry? Because poetry thrives on sensory input and emotional resonance. It's not a mere recounting of events, it's an invitation to inhabit a moment, a thought, a feeling. By showing rather than telling, you create a vibrant, multi-dimensional experience for your reader. You appeal directly to their senses, activating their imagination. They don't just read about sorrow, They see it, feel its weight, almost taste its salt. This technique fosters empathy, deepens understanding, and embeds your words more firmly in the reader's consciousness. It transforms abstract concepts into tangible realities, bridging the gap between your inner world and theirs, creating a shared, vivid landscape where your poem can truly come alive. It is the very heart of evocative writing, allowing your poetry to breathe, to resonate, to truly be. Next, let's turn our attention to the magnificent power of metaphor. A metaphor, in its essence, is a figure of speech that directly compares two unlike things without using like or as. It asserts that one thing is another. It is a bold, declarative statement that forces the reader to see an unexpected Chapter 6, Finding Your Voice. Chapter 6, Finding Your Voice. Every poet yearns for it. That unmistakable cadence, that unique perspective, that undeniable resonance that makes a poem not just words on a page, but a living, breathing entity. We're talking about finding your voice. It's the holy grail of creative writing, the elusive signature that sets your work apart. Imagine a painter finally discovering their distinct brushwork, their signature palette, or a musician unearthing a melody that is undeniably their own, a tune that speaks with an authenticity no one else could replicate. For poets, this journey is equally profound, often challenging, and ultimately, deeply rewarding. It's not about mimicking the masters, or chasing trends, but about excavating the truths within yourself and expressing them in a way that is utterly, unapologetically you. This chapter, Finding Your Voice, is your guide to embarking on that essential quest. We'll delve into the nuanced distinctions that empower your writing, explore the powerful emotional levers at your disposal, and ultimately, champion the courage required to lay bare your truest self. By the end of our time together, you'll possess a clearer roadmap for cultivating the unique poetic identity that awaits within you, ready to be unleashed. Let's begin by dissecting a fundamental concept that often gets conflated: the speaker versus the poet. The poet is the author, the person physically writing the poem. They are the individual with the pen in hand, or fingers on the keyboard, crafting the verses. The speaker, conversely, is the voice within the poem, the persona created by the poet to narrate the work. This persona might indeed be the poet themselves, drawing directly from their experiences, but it could just as easily be an imagined character, an inanimate object, an animal, a collective consciousness, or even an abstract idea. It's crucial to distinguish between these two entities for both analytical purposes and, more importantly, for maximizing your creative freedom as a writer. The speaker doesn't always represent the poet's personal views, beliefs, or experiences directly. Think of the speaker as a mask, a lens, a vessel through which the poem's immediate narrative unfolds. This distinction grants poets the immense liberty to explore perspectives that are not inherently their own, to embody emotions or ideas without necessarily owning them personally in their daily lives. It allows for compelling dramatic monologues, for satirical commentary on societal norms, and for fostering deep empathy towards diverse experiences, all without the author being bound by direct autobiography. To illustrate this, consider Robert Browning's chilling masterpiece, My Last Duchess. The poet, of course, is Robert Browning, a master of the dramatic monologue. The speaker, however, is a formidable duke, a chillingly possessive and ultimately murderous nobleman, who, with disturbing nonchalance, recounts the story of his late wife's portrait and, implicitly, her demise. Browning, the poet, is not advocating for such tyrannical behavior, rather, he is masterfully exploring the dark psychology of power, control, and entitlement through the Duke's meticulously crafted voice. The Duke's subtle revelations about his former wife's too easily impressed nature and his thinly veiled satisfaction with her subsequent end paint a vivid, disturbing picture of a sociopathic personality, all from his own perspective. Another classic example is T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Eliot is the poet, but J. Alfred Prufrock is the hesitant, insecure, aging intellectual, grappling with the profound alienation and paralysis of modern urban life. Prufrock's anxieties, his famous "Do I Dare Disturb the Universe?", or his self-conscious obsession with his thinning hair and consumption of peaches, are distinct from Eliot's own biographical self, though perhaps they tap into universal human feelings of inadequacy and existential dread. The speaker's voice here is one of introspection, neurosis, and urban ennui. Understanding T. Chapter 7, The Architecture of the Page. Chapter 7, The Architecture of the Page. Poetry, at its heart, is often perceived as an auditory experience, a tapestry woven with sounds, rhythms, and the resonance of spoken words. We immerse ourselves in the music of language, allowing the flow to wash over us. Yet, to truly appreciate the full spectrum of a poem's power, we must also become skilled readers of its visual landscape. Imagine stepping into a grand building, not just hearing the echoes within its halls, but seeing the deliberate placement of every brick, every archway, every window. Each element contributes to the overall effect, guides your eye, shapes your perception. In poetry, the page itself is that architectural blueprint, and the poet, the master builder. Today, in Chapter 7, we embark on a deep dive into the architecture of the page. We'll explore how the silent, visual elements of a poem, the deliberate placement of line breaks, the shaping of stanzas, and the strategic deployment of white space, are not mere formatting choices, but crucial carriers of meaning, emotion, and profound artistic intent. These aren't just arbitrary divisions, they are dynamic tools that sculpt the reader's experience, often dictating pace, emphasis, and even unlocking hidden layers of interpretation. We're moving beyond the sounds to truly see the poem. Let's begin with the humble line break. On the surface, it seems so simple: a word ends, and the next begins on a new line. But a line break is far more than a simple carriage return. It is a calculated pause, a subtle cue for the reader to stop, to breathe, to reconsider. A well-placed line break can inject a moment of suspense, forcing the reader to linger on a word or phrase, creating an anticipation for what comes next. It can also act as a pivot point, allowing a single phrase or even a single word to carry a double meaning, where the first meaning concludes at the end of the line, and a second, often contrasting or expanding meaning, begins anew on the subsequent line. This deliberate fragmentation guides the reader's eye and mind, controlling the flow of information and the accumulation of understanding. It's about manipulating expectation and revelation. Consider a famous, often quoted example, though not always identified for its brilliant use of line breaks, from William Carlos Williams' The Red Wheelbarrow. The poem reads, "So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens." If Williams had written this as prose, or even as longer lines, its impact would be significantly diminished. The break after depends forces us to pause, to feel the weight of that word, the abstract concept of reliance, before we are given the concrete object. The break after will allows red will to momentarily exist as a complete thought, perhaps evoking a child's toy, before the full image of the wheelbarrow completes itself on the next line. Each break is a miniature cliffhanger, a micro moment of suspense that makes the seemingly mundane objects profound. It isolates elements, granting them individual significance before they reintegrate into the whole. The visual isolation mirrors the poet's meticulous focus. Why does this matter so profoundly? Because line breaks are a poet's way of orchestrating the reader's internal rhythm and intellectual engagement. They control the breath, the speed, and crucially, the emphasis. By dictating where we pause, the poet can highlight specific words, amplify their resonance, and create unexpected relationships between phrases that might otherwise blur together. They sculpt the acoustic experience even in silent reading, suggesting where the voice would naturally rise or fall. More than that, they invite us into the poet's process of observation, revealing the meticulous care taken in parsing the world into meaningful segments. It's an invitation to a deeper, more intentional way of reading and seeing. The line break forces us to slow down, to taste each word, preventing us from rushing past the very essence of the poem. It's a tool for prep. Chapter 8, The Golden Cage of Form. Chapter 8, The Golden Cage of Form. Welcome back to our journey through the intricate world of poetry. Today, we step into a realm that, at first glance, might seem restrictive, even daunting, the universe of structured verse. We're talking about the sonnets, the villanelles, the sestinas, the haikus, forms that often evoke images of strict rules and historical rigidity. But I invite you to reconsider. Imagine a master sculptor, not just chipping away at a shapeless mass, but meticulously carving within the defined edges of a magnificent block of marble, its inherent limitations actually guiding the hand, compelling a specific kind of beauty. Or consider a brilliant choreographer, transforming the boundless potential of human movement into a precisely timed, breathtaking ballet. Every leap, every turn, every hold, is an act of creation within a meticulously designed structure. These aren't limitations, they are frameworks. They are the golden cages that, paradoxically, offer unparalleled freedom, compelling poets to forge ingenuity, precision, and an often unexpected grace. This chapter is a deep dive into that paradox. We will explore how the very restrictions imposed by poetic forms can act as powerful catalysts for creativity, pushing poets to explore language, rhythm, and imagery in ways they might never have discovered otherwise. We'll dissect the timeless architecture of the Shakespearean sonnet, understanding its mechanics and its enduring power. And we'll see how contemporary poets continue to breathe new life into these ancient molds, using rigid forms to tackle the most modern and pressing subjects. First, let's confront a fundamental truth about creativity: restrictions can actually breed it. This isn't just a quaint idea, it's a verifiable psychological principle. When faced with infinite possibilities, the human mind can sometimes freeze, overwhelmed by choice. But introduce a boundary, a parameter, a specific set of rules, and suddenly, the creative impulse sharpens. The challenge becomes a puzzle, an invitation to innovate. Think of it like this: if you're told to build a house with any materials in the world, the task is immense. But if you're told to build a house using only recycled glass and reclaimed wood, your ingenuity immediately kicks in. You start thinking about new techniques, unexpected solutions, and unique aesthetics. In poetry, this translates into a heightened awareness of every single word, every syllable, every pause. When a poem must adhere to a strict meter, a specific rhyme scheme, or a predetermined number of lines, the poet cannot simply ramble. They are forced to condense, to distill, to find the most potent and precise language available. Every word earns its place. This constraint forces a poet to delve deeper into the lexicon, to discover unexpected rhymes that brilliantly connect disparate ideas, to sculpt rhythm that echoes the very heartbeat of their subject matter. It prevents lazy writing, it demands excellence. The poet learns to make every choice intentional, to exploit the acoustic and semantic potential of language to its fullest. It's like being given a limited palette of colors and being asked to paint a masterpiece. The constraints don't diminish the art, they often enhance its depth and originality. Why does this matter so profoundly? Because it teaches discipline, not just in writing, but in thought. It hones your ability to problem solve within a creative context. It cultivates an economy of language that benefits all forms of communication. It reveals that true freedom often lies not in an absence of rules, but in the mastery of them. By engaging with form, a poet learns to articulate complex emotions and profound ideas with unparalleled clarity and impact. They discover that the golden cage isn't a prison at all, but rather a specially constructed incubator for exceptional expression, a framework that supports and elevates the very act of poetic creation. Now, let's turn our attention to one of the most iconic and enduring of these golden cages, the Shakespearean. Chapter 9, The Art of Brevity. Welcome back to poetry. In our journey through the vast landscapes of poetic expression, we've explored expansive narratives and intricate lyrical tapestries. But today, we turn our gaze to something deceptively simple, yet profoundly powerful, the art of brevity. Imagine a single brush stroke, perfectly placed, conveying an entire scene. Or a quiet hum, resonating with a universe of unspoken feeling. This is the realm of haiku, tanka, and the myriad other short poems that prove true genius often lies not in what is said, but in what is left unsaid, in the exquisite discipline of economy. Think of those moments in life when a simple glance speaks volumes, or a brief, heartfelt note carries more weight than a long letter. It's in these instances that we instinctively recognize the power of conciseness. Poetry, in its most distilled forms, masters this very principle. These aren't just short poems, they are compressed universes, challenging both the writer and the reader to engage with language at its most potent. We are about to dive into the intricate craft that allows a handful of words to bloom into boundless meaning, inviting contemplation, and sparking imagination in ways longer forms sometimes cannot. Our first deep dive takes us into the core discipline required to say more with less. This isn't about rushing, it's about refining, about stripping away every superfluous word until only the essential gleams. It's a deliberate act of paring down, a sculptor chipping away at marble until the inherent form emerges. The challenge lies in ensuring that the removal of words amplifies, rather than diminishes, the poem's impact. Each word chosen must carry the weight of many, functioning not just as a descriptor, but as a catalyst for thought and emotion. It demands clarity of vision and an unwavering commitment to precision. A poet embracing brevity isn't merely writing fewer lines, they are crafting dense pockets of meaning, where every syllable is a carefully considered choice. This kind of writing forces an intense focus, an almost meditative state, compelling the poet to identify the absolute heart of their message. It asks, what is truly indispensable here, and then, how can I make that indispensable element shine brightest with minimal adornment? To illustrate this, consider a concept that might start as a longer thought. The old oak tree stands alone on the hill, its branches reaching towards the fading light of the sunset, having witnessed countless seasons of change, enduring all. This is descriptive, but perhaps diffuse. Now, let's apply the discipline of brevity. We might distill it to something like, old oak on the hill / sunset paints its ancient limbs / season's quiet truth. Notice how the essence remains, yet the language is tightened, the image is sharpened. The reader is invited to fill in the gaps, to bring their own experiences of old trees and sunsets to the poem, making the experience more personal and profound. The impact isn't just in what is said, but in the echoes it leaves, the silent spaces between the lines that hum with implied meaning. This is the magic, creating resonance through restraint. Why does this matter? The discipline of brevity forces both the writer and the reader into a deeper engagement. For the writer, it hones their craft, demanding an acute awareness of language, rhythm, and imagery. It teaches them to value every single word, transforming writing from mere expression into an act of conscious creation. For the reader, short poems are incredibly impactful and memorable. They stick with you. They are portable truths, easily recalled, and often reveal new layers of meaning with each revisit. In a world saturated with information, the concise poem offers a moment of deliberate contemplation, a sharp, focused point of light in the vastness. It teaches us to seek out essence, to appreciate the power of implication, and to find richness in simplicity. This practice sharpens our perception, not just of poetry, but of the world around us, encouraging us to notice the small, potent. Chapter 10, Breaking the Chains. Welcome, fellow travelers. Today, we cross a threshold, dramatically reshaping poetry. For centuries, poetry was defined by rhythm, meter, and rhyme, its foundational pillars. But convention yields to innovation. Chapter 10, Breaking the Chains, explores modern poetry's most significant upheaval, free verse. Imagine a poet unburdened by ancient structural demands, speaking, singing, roaring with unmuted authenticity. This wasn't tradition's rejection, but an expansion, a profound reimagining of poetry's possibilities for poet and reader. It was liberation. We'll delve into its origins, philosophy, and enduring impact on poetic voice today. For millennia, poetry was oral. Rhyme, meter, alliteration were mnemonic aids. Consistent beats, predictable rhymes, functional tools for long narratives, from Greek epics to Shakespearean sonnets. Adherence to form defined good poetry, deviation was amateurish. This rigid framework, though producing masterpieces, also created stiffness, hindering direct expression. The shift was a gradual recognition. Poetry's essence lay deeper than surface ornamentation, in capturing thought, emotion, and experience in elevated language, free from a predefined sonic cage. Contrast Shakespeare's sonnet "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" 14 lines, iambic pentameter, precise rhyme scheme. Every syllable, stress, and sound meticulously placed for order and musicality. Now, juxtapose with William Carlos Williams' free verse, "The Red Wheelbarrow." So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. No discernible rhyme or consistent meter. Line breaks are irregular, dictated by the poet's internal rhythm, emphasis, visual presentation. The poem breathes differently, its structure born from observation. The shift is palpable, from predetermined musicality to organic resonance, from external architecture to internal landscape. This liberation opened vast new territory. It allowed a more natural, conversational tone, mirroring spoken language, making poetry more accessible. Poets gained freedom to pursue clarity, directness, authenticity. This was democratic, broadening poetic subject matter. It challenged gatekeepers, asserting emotional truth, and vivid imagery resonated powerfully without traditional adornments. It paved the way for poetry to become an intimate, immediate medium, capturing modern life's complexities without classical artifice. It allowed poetry to evolve, stay relevant, and reflect shifting sensibilities, ensuring its vitality. A major misconception about free verse: it means anything goes, merely prose chopped into arbitrary lines, or a rejection of all discipline. Untrue. While free verse discards external rules like fixed meter and end rhyme, it doesn't abandon structure or musicality. It relies on internal, organic rules emerging from the poem's content, its rhythm, and the poet's cultivated ear. Rules aren't prescribed, they're forged within the language. Elements like alliteration, assonance, consonance, internal rhyme, varying line lengths, enjambment, and caesura become vital. The free verse poet must be acutely attuned to language's sonic qualities, breath, visual arrangement, and subtle tone shifts. Discipline shifts from template adherence to creating a unique, self-sustaining system for each poem, requiring deeper, intuitive understanding of language's innate music. Let's examine T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, a masterpiece of early 20th century free verse. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go, through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights in one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells, streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question. No strict meter or end rhyme. Yet, internal rhythms are present. Notice assonance in retreats/streets, consonance in restless nights. Eliot uses varied lin. Chapter 11, The Mirror of the Self. Chapter 11, The Mirror of the Self. Welcome, fellow travelers on this poetic journey, to Chapter 11, The Mirror of the Self. Today, we delve into a uniquely intimate space where the poet turns their gaze inward, exploring the rich, often turbulent landscapes of personal experience. This chapter focuses on confessional poetry, the raw, unflinching art of writing from the deepest wells of trauma or joy. It's about the profound act of self-examination, where the page becomes a mirror, reflecting truths unseen or unspoken. Think about the stories etched onto your soul, moments that shaped you, heartbreaks that refined you, triumphs that lifted you. These are not just events, they are reservoirs of feeling, complex tapestries woven from memory and emotion. Confessional poetry invites us to dissect these moments, feel them anew, and articulate them with precision and vulnerability that resonates far beyond individual lives. It's a brave, transformative practice, offering both poet and reader a chance to understand the human condition with empathy. We are sharing fragments of existence, pieces of a universal mosaic. Now, let's explore the ethics and therapeutic nature of writing about oneself. This isn't just journaling, it's an art form bringing personal narratives into public view, raising profound ethical considerations. Exposing vulnerabilities, or those of others connected to our stories, means walking a delicate tightrope. We must ask, is this truly my story to tell? Am I revealing too much? The boundary between authentic expression and harmful oversharing is nuanced, demanding careful discernment. Consider your words' impact. Once released, they take on a life of their own. We bear responsibility to ourselves and our readers, ensuring honesty serves a higher purpose than mere exhibitionism. The therapeutic benefits, however, can be immense. Writing from trauma or profound emotion offers powerful catharsis. It allows us to process difficult experiences, gain perspective, and integrate challenging events into our life narrative. Shaping raw emotion into language, imposing form onto chaos, is inherently therapeutic, providing a sense of control. Articulating pain helps us understand it, distance ourselves, and transform it. It's about acknowledging, understanding, and moving forward. Maya Angelou's memoirs powerfully illustrate this, transforming personal suffering into universal strength and wisdom. Her honesty about racism and trauma offered healing and empowerment. Why does this matter? Art makes sense of the world, starting within. For the poet, it's self-discovery and recovery. For the reader, it mirrors their struggles, fostering connection and reducing isolation. This shared humanity is the ultimate aim. Let's turn to the mid-20th century movement, the confessional poets. Emerging in the US in the 1950s and 60s, this movement dramatically broke from academic, impersonal poetry. Poets like Robert Lowell, Sylvia Plath, Anne Sexton, and John Berryman wrote with startling candor about their personal lives, mental health struggles, relationships, and insecurities. They eschewed poetic masks, presenting themselves directly on the page. Lowell's life studies is foundational, exploring his family history and mental illness with unprecedented openness. Plath's Ariel contains searingly personal poems like Daddy and Lady Lazarus, confronting paternal relationships, depression, and self-destruction. Sexton's work delved into mental illness, motherhood, and sexuality with brutal honesty. The confessional movement was a cultural phenomenon. It pushed boundaries of poetic subject matter, challenging the notion that poetry should be objective and emotionally restrained. These poets believed the personal was political, that individual suffering illuminated broader societal issues, and that emotional authenticity was paramount. Why did this matter? It democratized emotional experience in poetry, giving poets permission to be fully human, to admit imperfections, pain, and confusion without shame. It validated the interior life. Chapter 12, Nature and the Sublime. Welcome to Chapter 12, Nature and the Sublime, a journey into the breathtaking and often challenging relationship between poetry and the natural world. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, churning ocean, the wind whipping your hair, the roar of the waves a primal symphony in your ears. Or perhaps you are nestled deep within an ancient forest, the filtered sunlight dappling through the canopy, the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves filling your senses. What stirs within you in these moments? Is it awe, humility, a sense of profound connection, or perhaps a thrilling, almost terrifying awareness of your own smallness against nature's grandeur? That deep resonance, that conversation between the human spirit and the wild, is the very heart of echo poetry and the focus of our exploration today. We're not just talking about describing a pretty landscape, we're delving into the intricate, often urgent, web of life, our place within it, and the ongoing, vital dialogue between humanity and the natural world. It's about finding language for the ineffable, for the power that shapes us and the planet. Let's begin by stepping back in time to the era of the Romantics and their profound awe of nature. The poets of the late 18th and early 19th centuries, figures like William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Percy Bysshe Shelley, and Lord Byron, utterly revolutionized how nature was perceived and represented in poetry. Before them, nature often served as a mere backdrop or a conventional pastoral setting. The Romantics, however, elevated it to a living, breathing entity, endowing it with spiritual insight, moral guidance, and an overwhelming emotional power. They saw nature not just as something beautiful to admire, but as a source of profound truth, a teacher, a muse, and even a mirror for the human soul. This era gave prominence to the concept of the sublime, an aesthetic quality distinct from mere beauty. The sublime wasn't just pleasant or harmonious, it was beauty infused with a sense of vastness, power, and intimidating grandeur that humbled the human spirit, prompting both awe and a thrilling introspection, sometimes even a touch of terror. It was about facing something so immense, so powerful, that it pushed the boundaries of human comprehension and emotion. Consider William Wordsworth's iconic poem, Lines composed a few miles above Tintern Abbey. Here, Wordsworth revisits a beloved landscape after many years, and his poem becomes a deep meditation not merely on the picturesque ruins or the River Wye, but on how this specific place has shaped his internal world. He doesn't just describe the scene, he recounts how its memory has sustained him through urban struggles, offering sensations sweet/felt in the blood, and felt along the heart. His youthful exuberance, where nature was a playground for unthinking joy, has matured into a deeper, more philosophical appreciation, recognizing a sense sublime/of something far more deeply interfused, /whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, /and the round ocean and the living air, /and the blue sky, and in the mind of man. The landscape is no longer just scenery, it's a profound spiritual presence, a teacher, and a catalyst for profound personal communion. It's about finding an almost divine presence not in dogma, but in the wild, untamed world around us. Understanding the Romantic tradition isn't just an academic exercise in literary history, it's a crucial lesson in how to approach the natural world with a poet's eye and heart. It teaches us to seek depth beyond superficial observation, to listen for the whispers of profound truth in the rustle of leaves, and to feel the spiritual resonance in a mountain's silent majesty. This historical perspective grounds us in a rich lineage of profound appreciation for nature, reminding us that humanity's search for meaning, beauty, and emotional truth has long been intimately intertwined with the wild. It's a powerful call to feel, deeply and viscerally, not just to see with detached eyes, and to recognize that the natural woe. Chapter 13, Storytelling in Verse. Chapter 13, Storytelling in Verse. Welcome back, poets and storytellers alike. In our journey through the vast landscape of poetry, we've often explored its capacity for expressing raw emotion, painting vivid landscapes with words, or delving into philosophical depths. But today, we turn our attention to one of poetry's most ancient and powerful functions, telling a story. Imagine a time before books, before widespread literacy, when tales of heroes, lovers, and tragic fates were carried not on pages, but on the breath of bards, through the rhythmic pulse of verse. This is the realm of narrative poetry and ballads, where the intricate dance of plot, character, and setting unfolds within the structured beauty of poetic form. It's a captivating intersection, proving that poetry isn't just about fleeting moments, but can indeed weave epic tapestries, chapter by chapter, stanza by stanza. Let us first address the art of plotting a story within the often tight constraints of a poem. Crafting a compelling narrative in verse demands a unique blend of conciseness and evocative power. Unlike prose, where authors might have pages to establish setting or develop complex subplots, the poet must select each detail with surgical precision. Think of your poem as a series of carefully chosen snapshots, each advancing the narrative arc. You still need a clear beginning, a point of rising action, a climax where the central conflict comes to a head, a falling action that resolves lingering tensions, and finally, a satisfying resolution. The difference is the scale. These elements are condensed, often implied through imagery or dialogue that carries double duty. Every word must count, serving both the story and the poem's aesthetic. Consider a simple narrative. A lone traveler journeys through a harsh winter, encounters a lost child, and together they find shelter just before a blizzard hits. In prose, this might be a short story. In verse, we might begin by establishing the desolate setting and the traveler's weary state, perhaps with lines like, "The frost-kissed path, a serpent cold, held winter's grip, a tale untold and weary feet, through snow drifts deep, a solitary promise kept." This efficiently sets the scene and introduces the protagonist's condition. The rising action could involve the sudden, unexpected discovery of the child, perhaps through a flash of color or a faint cry. A crimson scarf, a fragile sound, where frozen shadows danced around a child, small form, against the gray, had wandered far from morning's ray. The climax would be the intensifying storm, the immediate threat to both characters, driving them towards desperate action. The falling action would see them locating a refuge, and the resolution would be their safe arrival, perhaps with a hint of newfound connection or hope. The why it matters here is profound. When a story is told in verse, it gains an inherent musicality and memorability. The rhythm and rhyme act as mnemonic devices, making the narrative stick in the listener's mind long after the words have faded. The compression of language often elevates the emotional impact, transforming simple events into powerful, symbolic moments. Every image becomes loaded with significance, allowing the reader to experience the story not just intellectually, but viscerally, through the poem's heightened reality. Next, we delve into the ballad form, a cornerstone of storytelling in verse, with a rich and vibrant history intertwined with song. The traditional ballad is typically a narrative poem, often sung, characterized by its straightforward storytelling and dramatic content. Its structure is usually simple, quatrains, or four-line stanzas, with an ABCB or ABAB rhyme scheme, and a meter that often alternates between iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter. This steady, predictable rhythm makes it incredibly accessible and easy to memorize, perfectly suited for oral tradition. Ballads frequently recount tales of love, loss, tragedy, heroism, and the supernatural, often with a stark, almost journalistic Chapter 14, Poetry as Protest. Welcome to Chapter 14, Poetry as Protest. Imagine a world where words aren't just whispers in the wind, but thunderous roars demanding change. Throughout history, long before hashtags and viral videos, poetry stood as a formidable weapon in the arsenal of the dispossessed, the marginalized, and the revolutionaries. It's a testament to the enduring power of language, structured and imbued with emotion, to challenge injustice, ignite movements, and articulate the deepest yearnings for freedom and equality. We're about to embark on a journey exploring how verse transcends mere aesthetic beauty, transforming into a crucial instrument for social justice and political commentary, a potent force capable of shaking the very foundations of oppressive systems. Prepare to discover the fierce heart beating beneath the lines of protest, a heart that beats with courage and conviction. Poetry, in the context of civil rights movements, wasn't merely documentation, it was a rallying cry, a balm for weary souls, and a stark mirror reflecting societal inequities. It provided a voice where official channels often denied one, forging unity and resilience through shared experience and collective aspiration. These poems became anthems, memorized and recited, strengthening resolve, and fostering a profound sense of communal identity against systemic oppression. They were the stories whispered in hushed tones and shouted from pulpits, becoming the very fabric of resistance. Consider the profound impact of Langston Hughes, whose work often chronicled the struggles and dreams of African Americans during the Harlem Renaissance and beyond. His poem I, Too, Sing America, for instance, boldly asserts the right to equality and belonging, declaring, "I, too, am America." It's a powerful, direct statement challenging segregation and racial prejudice, delivering a message of undeniable dignity and rightful ownership. Or think of Maya Angelou's "Still I Rise," a defiant affirmation of strength and perseverance in the face of adversity. This iconic poem inspired countless individuals with its unyielding spirit and vibrant imagery, transforming personal pain into universal triumph. It is a masterpiece of resilience. The importance of this poetry cannot be overstated. It didn't just articulate grievances, it created a narrative, a counter-narrative to the dominant, often dehumanizing, portrayals. It offered hope, validated suffering, and galvanized action. These poems were not abstract, they were visceral, deeply human expressions that resonated across communities, providing both comfort and courage. They served as vital historical records, emotional touchstones, and blueprints for future generations seeking justice. They taught resilience, solidarity, and the fundamental belief in one's inherent worth, even when that worth was vehemently denied by the societal structures of the time. This verse became the soul of a movement. The phrase "speaking truth to power" perfectly encapsulates a core function of protest poetry. It's about fearlessly confronting those in authority, governments, institutions, corporations who perpetuate injustice or maintain oppressive structures. This isn't just criticism, it's a moral imperative, a refusal to remain silent in the face of wrongdoing. Poets, often operating outside mainstream media or political structures, can serve as society's conscience, using their craft to expose hypocrisy, critique policy, and demand accountability. They do so with an economy of language and an intensity of feeling that prose often struggles to match. Their words pierce through the noise. Think of the anti-war poetry that emerged during conflicts like the Vietnam War. Poets like Denise Levertov, in works such as Life at War, meticulously dissected the human cost of conflict, challenging the sanitized narratives propagated by official channels. Her vivid, often stark imagery brought the brutality of war directly to the reader, forcing contemplation, and questioning the moral legitimacy of the actions. Similarly, poets under totalitarian regimes. Chapter 15, The Spoken Word. Welcome back to poetry. We've spent many chapters exploring the intricate tapestry of words on the page, the delicate dance of metaphor, the rhythmic pulse of meter, and the profound silence between lines. We've dissected stanzas, admired the architectural elegance of form, and delved into the deep, often surprising wells of meaning that spring forth from ink on paper. But poetry, in its oldest and perhaps most vibrant, most communal form, has always been an auditory experience, a shared event, a living breath, resonating through space and time. Today, in Chapter 15, aptly titled The Spoken Word, we shift our profound attention from the quiet, internal contemplation of the written verse to the electrifying, external energy of live performance. We We step into the dynamic arena of slam poetry, the intimate glow of open mics, and the countless stages where poetry takes flight, transforming from static text into dynamic, pulsating utterance. This is where the poem sheds its more rigid, printed skin, growing new, expressive limbs of gesture, tone, and compelling presence, inviting an audience not just to intellectually read, but to viscerally, immediately, truly feel. It's a fundamental reimagining of what a poem can be. The transition from page to stage demands a fundamental and often challenging reorientation of perspective, both for the poet crafting the work and for the audience receiving it. On the page, the reader is sovereign, they control the pace, can reread challenging lines, ponder enigmatic pauses, and let their eyes wander back to previous stanzas for context or clarification. It's an intimate, intensely solitary dialogue, a personal journey into interpretation. On stage, however, the poet assumes comprehensive control of this temporal and emotional dimension. They become the masterful architect of the entire experience, guiding the listener with deliberate precision through the emotional and intellectual landscape of the poem, dictating not just the chosen words, but their precise delivery, their carefully weighted impact, their very cadence and rhythmic ebb and flow. The poem becomes a truly ephemeral event, a precious moment in time, shared and then gone, existing thereafter only in the reverberating collective memory of the room, a fleeting yet powerful impression. This profound shift inherently prioritizes immediate impact, visceral clarity, and the deep, often unspoken, human connection over purely intellectual dissection or leisurely analysis. It's about presence, not just prose. Consider a powerful, historically significant poem like Langston Hughes's The Negro Speaks of Rivers. On the page, you immediately perceive its elegant simplicity, its direct and universal address, its vast historical sweep, and its profound spiritual depth. When Hughes himself performed it, or when a skilled contemporary orator with a deep understanding of its legacy does, the resonance changes dramatically, palpably. The simple, yet profound, opening, "I've known rivers," takes on an almost spiritual gravitas, a weight of ages in the voice. The subsequent mention of ancient, foundational rivers, the Euphrates, the Congo, the Nile, is not merely a list but is imbued with the collective wisdom and suffering of countless generations, the very voice becoming a living, breathing vessel for an entire people's history and enduring spirit. The repeated affirmation of "my soul has grown deep like the rivers" is not just a declarative statement, but a deeply felt, echoing declaration, a sonic ripple mirroring the relentless flow of time and experience. The performer's subtle yet deliberate gaze, their gentle, almost imperceptible sway, their meticulously modulated vocal tones, all serve to amplify the poem's innate, structural power, rendering the abstract concept of ancestral memory tangible, immediate, and overwhelmingly resonant. It becomes a testament delivered, not just read. This pivotal shift matters immensely because it unlocks a distinctly different, often more immediate and communal, kind of poetic power. It brilliantly. Chapter 16, The Blank Page. Chapter 16, The Blank Page. Imagine this, perfect hour. Notebook pristine. Pen poised, but nothing. Page stares back, mocking its emptiness. This isn't hesitation, it's writer's block. Every poet faces this foe. It feels like a failing, a sudden draining of creative energy. But it's not. It's a natural creative ebb and flow, a challenge overcome with strategies and perspective. First, let's tackle starting when inspiration is low. A conceptual explanation, when inspiration is absent, invited through low-stakes engagement. Forget waiting for lightning, prepare ground for rain. These tangible steps bypass pressure, focusing on producing anything. Build momentum. Lower the entry barrier, making writing an everyday task, not a grand performance. Be real-world practical example. Try free writing. Set timer 5 to 10 minutes and write non-stop. Don't censor. If stuck, write "I have nothing to say." Or, use a writing prompt, word shadow, phrase taste of rain, or image. Describe immediate sensory details, what you see, hear, smell, taste, feel, to ground your mind, unlocking insights. See why it matters. These strategies demystify creation, dismantling the myth of inspired poetry. Low-stakes exercises train creative muscles, proving writing is accessible even when dry. They shift writing from performance to consistent practice. This builds discipline and resilience, teaching creativity is cultivated. Essential for long-term poetic output. Next, let's explore word association games and prompts. A conceptual explanation, word association unlocks latent mental connections. It's a playful technique bypassing self-judgment, tapping subconscious thought. Start with a word, then write the first associated word, and so on. This mimics natural thought, allowing unexpected imagery and themes to surface, discovering unique juxtapositions. Be real-world practical example, try ocean. Thoughts? Vast, blue, deep, secrets, salt, shore. Pick driftwood, weathered, smooth, time, lost. Use visual prompts, list words a photo inspires, then chain. Combine bicycle and silence to forge connections. Unexpected collisions spark poetic magic, igniting narratives. See why it matters. This approach liberates thinking. Poetry thrives on fresh perspectives. Word association provides a direct route. It trains metaphorical thinking, helping you see the extraordinary in the ordinary, connecting concepts. These games expand your lexicon and creative capacity. Trust your subconscious, follow where words lead. This rebuilds confidence, proving ideas are hidden. Finally, let's talk about a crucial truth. The first draft is allowed to be messy. A conceptual explanation, perfectionism inhibits poets. The blank page often stays blank from fear of not getting it right. First drafts aren't final, they're raw excavations, brain dumps. Get any words on the page. This liberation from judgment allows exploration without fear. Permission to be imperfect, to create something flawed but real. Be real-world practical example. For a lighthouse poem, write anything: stone tower, foghorns wail, cold wind. Don't fret cliches. List words, phrases, images. Write sentences that aren't quite right. Let lines spill. Capture raw essence, like clay before sculpting. Your first draft is your raw ingredients. See why it matters. Accepting messy first drafts is liberating. It transforms writing a poem into generating material. It separates creation from critique. This allows volume, generating many brilliant ideas. It builds resilience, teaching artistry lies in patient revision. Foster a healthier relationship with your inner critic. Push it aside during generation, invite it back for editing. Compelling poetry takes shape through iterative, messy, rewarding labor. Mental exercises for the listener. For practice, try these. Morning, 5 minutes observing one object, listing descriptive words. Day, notice metaphors in speech or nature. Notebook, jot unusual phrases/images. Weekly, write haiku about a random object. These small efforts keep creative sensors tuned. Chapter 17, The Sculptor's Chisel. Chapter 17, The Sculptor's Chisel. Welcome back, fellow explorers of poetic landscapes. Today, we enter the workshop where raw marble transforms into a breathtaking masterpiece. We're talking about revision, the alchemical process where a poem finds its soul, strength, and resonance. Think of yourself as a sculptor. Your first draft is crude stone, full of potential, yet rough and unpolished. The real art: chiseling, sanding, patient refinement. That's where magic unfolds. This chapter, The Sculptor's Chisel, guides you through that transformative journey, revealing how to carve away excess, to reveal enduring beauty. Let's begin with the foundational truth. Real poetry happens in the rewrite. Your initial inspiration, that beautiful, chaotic flow of words, is merely the beginning raw material. A poem isn't just words, it's an intricate structure, a symphony of sound, meaning, emotion. Without revision, brilliant sparks remain obscured, their full potential unrealized. Like a gardener tending seeds, cultivation helps a poem flourish. It's in the meticulous reconsideration of every word, line break, and stanza that a poem truly blossoms. For instance, drafting a poem about an old oak, its branches like weathered arms. The first draft might use big tree, green leaves. In the rewrite, you seek perfect verbs, evocative images. The tree doesn't just stand, it endures, roots grip earth with ancient resolve. Leaves aren't just green, they shimmer with emerald history. This deliberate refinement transforms good description into profound experience. Why does this matter? It elevates craft from transcription to artistry, the difference between sketching an idea and bringing it to vibrant life. It ensures the reader doesn't just understand, but feels it, lives within its landscape, carrying its essence long after the final word. Next, we confront a challenging but essential practice: kill your darlings. This maxim isn't about self-sabotage, but serving the poem's greater good. You poured heart into certain lines, a clever metaphor, a beautiful phrase, a personal passage. You adore them. They gleam like jewels. But sometimes, these lines, despite their brilliance, don't serve the poem's overall coherence, rhythm, or emotional arc. They might disrupt flow, introduce tangents, or draw attention from the central message. It's like an ornate chandelier in a minimalist room, beautiful, but jarring. For example, in a poem about loss, an exquisite stanza describing fleeting joy, though compelling, might detract from grief. It must go. The chisel must be wielded with courage. This isn't discarding beauty, it's discerning fitness. Why do these cuts matter? A poem's power lies in unity and singular focus. Removing elements that don't contribute strengthens its impact, clarifies its voice, ensuring every word works in concert. It allows the poem's heart to beat unimpeded, radiating its intended light without distraction. Finally, a surprisingly powerful tool, reading a draft aloud to catch clunky rhythms. Poetry, at its heart, is an auditory art. It sings, breathes, has a pulse. Reading silently, our eyes often smooth over awkward phrasings or forced rhymes. Our minds, eager for meaning, might even correct imperfections. But vocalize your poem, truly hear it, and every bump, snag, linguistic friction becomes apparent. You'll stumble over sibilant sounds, notice amateurish internal rhymes, or realize a profound line reads like a tongue twister. For instance, read silently. The crisp, black, brittle leaves of autumn often crackled quite loudly. Now, say it aloud. Hear the repetitive K and L sounds. Does it feel heavy, sluggish? Reading aloud instantly highlights that sonic density. Revised to autumn's crisp, dark leaves often whispered a brittle crackle. Similar meaning, lighter, more fluid sound. Why is this crucial? A poem's musicality is inseparable from its meaning. Effortless flow from the tongue means easier reader understanding. It enhances memorability, grace, and captivates an audience, whether silent reader or acti. Chapter 18, Sharing the Spark. Chapter 18, Sharing the Spark. For so long, your poetry has been a cherished secret, a private conversation between you and the page. You honed your voice, wrestled with form, and poured your deepest insights into verse. But what happens when the words yearn for more than just your gaze? What happens when the spark you've so carefully nurtured within yourself begs to be shared, to ignite something in another? This chapter is about that crucial, exhilarating transition, moving beyond the solitary act of creation to the vibrant, interconnected world of literary community and publication. It's about taking your place among the voices that shape our collective understanding, allowing your unique poetic light to shine for others. It's a bold step. A necessary one, some would say. Our journey begins with the structured path of submitting your work to literary journals. These publications, whether online or in print, are the lifeblood of contemporary poetry. They serve as curated showcases for emerging and established voices, offering a platform that lends credibility and reaches an audience specifically attuned to the art form. Think of them as the finely tuned ears of the literary world, constantly listening for new melodies and profound harmonies. The conceptual idea here is simple. Your poem finds a home where it can be appreciated by a wider, discerning readership. Practically, the process involves a few key steps. First, research. Don't send your avant-garde free verse to a journal known exclusively for formal sonnets. Read issues of various journals, both physically and online, to understand their aesthetic. Familiarize yourself with their masthead, their recent contributors, and the general tone they cultivate. Platforms like Submittable have revolutionized this process, acting as a centralized hub where you can submit to hundreds of journals with ease. You'll typically need a cover letter brief, professional, and expressing your admiration for the journal, a short third-person biography, and the poem or poems themselves, formatted precisely as requested. Pay close attention to submission windows, word counts, and whether they accept simultaneous submissions, meaning sending the same poem to multiple journals at once. Be meticulous. Presentation matters immensely. Why it matters is profound. Getting published in a literary journal isn't just about seeing your name in print, it's about validation, yes, but more importantly, it's about participating in the ongoing conversation of poetry. It means your work has resonated with an editor, a gatekeeper, who believes it deserves to be heard. This can open doors to further opportunities, build your literary resume, and perhaps most significantly, introduce your unique perspective to someone who might desperately need to hear it. It's a testament to your dedication and the quality of your craft, signifying that your spark has found a place to truly glow. Next, let's explore the invaluable benefits of joining critique groups and attending open mic nights. These are the dynamic, interactive spaces where poets truly connect, learn, and grow together. Conceptually, a critique group is a collaborative workshop where writers share their drafts to receive constructive feedback from peers. It's a safe haven for vulnerability and a forge for refinement. Open mic nights, conversely, are performance spaces, opportunities to share your work aloud in front of an audience, often including other poets and enthusiastic listeners. They are stages for bravery, for testing the wings of your words in the open air. For a practical example, imagine finding a local critique group through a community arts center or an online forum. You'll bring a new poem, perhaps one you've been struggling with, and present it to the group. Members will offer specific, actionable feedback. This line feels a little cliched here, or the imagery in the second stanza is incredibly powerful. Can you expand on that? You learn not just how to improve your own work, but also how to critically engage with poetry and art. Chapter 19: Poetry in the Digital Age. Remember the hushed libraries, the thick anthologies, the solemn pronouncements of literary critics? For centuries, poetry resided within venerated halls, a guarded treasure. But what happens when the treasure chest opens, spilling its glittering contents across the digital landscape? What happens when the ancient art of verse finds a new, vibrant home, not just in bound pages, but flickering across smartphone screens, shared with a tap, liked with a heart, and scrolled through with a thumb? Welcome to Chapter 19, Poetry in the Digital Age, where we explore how social media platforms, from Instagram to TikTok, have fundamentally reshaped the way poetry is created, consumed, and celebrated. This isn't merely an evolution, it's a revolution, democratizing an art form often perceived as elitist and inaccessible, bringing it to millions worldwide. The internet, particularly social media, has birthed a phenomenon often dubbed Insta poetry. This isn't a derogatory term, but rather a descriptive one for a style characterized by its brevity, emotional directness, and visual presentation. It's poetry designed for immediate impact, easily digestible in a scroll-heavy feed. Think of it as bite-sized verse, often paired with minimalist artwork or a clean aesthetic, making complex feelings universally relatable. A prime example is the meteoric rise of poets like Rupi Kaur. Her work, often short, powerful lines accompanied by simple illustrations, struck a chord with millions globally. Another notable figure is Atticus, whose anonymous persona and poignant, often melancholic lines gained immense traction, fostering a sense of intimacy with his vast readership. Lang Leave, too, carved out a significant space with her emotive, accessible verse. These poets didn't wait for traditional publishers, they built their audiences directly, one viral post at a time, often self-publishing later with unprecedented success. Why this matters profoundly is multifaceted. Firstly, it has democratized poetry, tearing down the formidable gates of traditional publishing and literary academia. Anyone with a smartphone and a voice can now be a poet, sharing their truth directly with an audience. Secondly, it has broadened poetry's appeal, reaching demographics previously uninterested or intimidated by verse. It makes poetry feel current, relevant, and personal. Finally, it fosters a vital sense of community. Readers connect not just with the words, but with the shared emotions, finding solace and understanding in the collective digital experience. This accessibility ensures poetry remains a living, breathing art, continually adapting and embracing new voices. The digital age inevitably sparks a debate: what is the true home of poetry? Is it the ephemeral glow of a screen or the comforting weight of a book? Both mediums offer distinct advantages and disadvantages. Digital platforms provide unparalleled reach and immediacy. A poem can be written and shared globally within minutes, sparking conversations and inspiring millions instantaneously. It allows for multimedia integration, turning a simple verse into a dynamic experience with audio or visual elements. However, digital poetry can sometimes feel less permanent, easily lost in the endless scroll, its aesthetic often dictated by platform algorithms rather than artistic intent. The intimate, solitary act of reading can be disrupted by notifications and distractions. Conversely, print offers a tangible, sensory experience. Holding a beautifully bound collection, turning real pages, feeling the texture of the paper, these are rituals cherished by many. Print conveys a sense of permanence, curation, and gravitas. A physical book exists beyond the vagaries of algorithms or changing digital trends. Yet, print also has its limitations: slower dissemination, higher production costs, and a more restricted reach without accompanying digital promotion. A printed collection, while deeply rewarding, lacks the instant global virality of a well-timed digital post. Understanding why this debate matters means appreciating. Chapter 20, Living Poetically. Chapter 20, Living Poetically. We've journeyed through verse, explored its rhythmic heart, deciphered its whispers. As our exploration nears its close, the question isn't just what poetry is, but how it lives within us, transforming daily reality. Imagine waking not just to a new day, but to a world brimming with metaphors. Every mundane task holds rhythm, every conversation, a sonnet. This isn't about becoming a published poet, it's about integrating the poetic mindset into your existence, making life itself your most profound poem. Poetry isn't confined to ink or spoken words. It's a lens for perception, an active stance, finding beauty in the ordinary. It's about presence, being fully alive to the moment. Consider your morning coffee. Beyond a caffeine delivery, observe the swirling cream, rising steam, unfolding aroma. Listen to the gentle clink. Feel its warmth. Taste its complex layers. This attentive, sensory immersion is a poetic act. It transforms routine into ritual, combating habit's dullness. Profound connection and mindfulness emerge from the mundane, enriching your internal landscape, fostering deeper appreciation. The poetic sensibility cultivates empathy, urging us into another's shoes, understanding unsaid feelings. Deep listening transcends words, seeking cadences, subtext, meaningful pauses. Curiosity becomes an insatiable hunger to question, never settling for superficial answers. During a conversation, truly listen. Notice body language, a tremor in their voice, drifting eyes. Grasp not just what's said, but what they feel or struggle to articulate. Reflect on hidden narratives. These qualities are cornerstones of meaningful human connection. They bridge divides, deepen relationships, and fuel intellectual growth, ensuring openness to new ideas and expanding horizons, preventing stagnation. Living poetically means a commitment to perpetual wonder, an enduring awe for the universe's mysteries. It's an embrace of not knowing, appreciating questions more than definitive answers. The world remains an inexhaustible source of inspiration. Next time, see a spider web glistening with dew. Don't dismiss it, marvel at its architectural complexity, its delicate strength. Gaze at the night sky, letting its vastness wash over you, sensing your infinitesimal place. This keeps the spirit vibrant, resilient. Wonder is the antidote to cynicism, burnout. It instills humility, fosters gratitude, fuels lifelong creativity, ensuring learning and growth. Every sunrise, a new beginning, every encounter, a potential revelation. 7-Day Action Plan, from Reader to Writer. Welcome to Chapter 7, 7-Day Action Plan, from Reader to Writer. Moving from reader to writer feels immense. Many yearn to create, yet consistent practice eludes. This chapter offers a concrete, week-long schedule to build your writing habit. Transform abstract desire into tangible action. Begin writing. Day 1, the observation walk. Step outside. Record 5 distinct sensory details. See, hear, smell, touch. Example: crisp pine scent, distant siren, rough bark, shimmering dew, cool air. This sharpens perception, turning surroundings into rich poetic material, grounding your voice. Day 2, the memory dive. Write about a childhood scar. Recall its story, emotions, specific setting. Faint knee line, fear, comforting sounds. This excavates personal authenticity, connecting your narrative to universal vulnerability. It adds crucial emotional depth. Day 3, the form challenge. Write a haiku 5-7-5 syllables. Focus on a strong image or nature moment. Example: old pond, frog leaps in / sound of water, quiet now / silence in the calm. This hones ability to distill ideas into impactful words, teaching conciseness. Day 4, the metaphor mix. Describe an abstract emotion using weather, joy, anger, or sorrow as meteorological phenomena. Anxiety, low, rolling fog, obscuring path, chilling air. This elevates language, making internal states vivid, relatable via external analogies. Day 5, the eavesdropper. Find a phrase conversation, media use it as a poem's starting point. It's all in the timing, sparks verses on chances. This expands inspiration, finding poetic potential in everyday chatter, honing awareness of language's spontaneous offerings. Day 6, The revision. Revisit your Day 2 scar piece. Read aloud. Tighten sentences. Replace vague adjectives. I had a scar transforms to the jagged seam on my forearm, mapping childhood's swift fall. This transforms raw expression into polished art, developing your craft. Day 7, the performance. Choose any poem from this week. Read it aloud to yourself, a friend, or record. Notice breath, pace, emphasis. How do words sound? This connects you to poetry as an oral art, revealing its musicality, building confidence in your unique voice. Congratulations! You've completed your first focused week. This establishes routine, sharpens senses, builds your writing muscle. Keep observing, drafting, revising. Your journey as a consistent, confident writer has truly begun. Summary: the tapestry woven. We've journeyed far, haven't we? Through sun-drenched meadows of rhyme and shadowed valleys of free verse. We've scaled the peaks of epic narratives and wandered the quiet, reflective groves of haiku. This chapter isn't just a look back, it's an opportunity to gather the threads of our exploration, to appreciate the intricate beauty of the tapestry we've collectively woven, and to reaffirm the vital role poetry plays in our lives. At its heart, poetry distills raw human experience into resonant truth. Its emotional honesty, voiced with precision. Consider pounds the apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet, black bough. It captures fleeting urban anonymity, sudden beauty. Or Dickinson's "Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me" the quiet inevitability of mortality. This emotional truth connects us, makes us feel seen, bridging individual experience, fostering empathy. Poetry mirrors our innermost landscape, a profound act of shared humanity. Beyond emotion, poetry wields a robust toolkit. Rhythm provides pulse, guiding the ear. Imagery paints vivid pictures, transforming abstracts into sensory experiences. Form, structured or free, gives the poem architecture, shaping reception. Think Shakespeare's iambic thump. Consider Neruda's iconic imagery of loss. Even in free verse, line breaks are purposeful form. These aren't decorations, they're integral to meaning. Rhythm intensifies feeling. Imagery makes the intangible tangible. Form structures thought. They are emotion's essential scaffolding. Finally, and crucially, your unique voice is necessary. No one perceives or feels exactly as you do. Your experiences and insights are invaluable raw material. Forget sounding like Whitman or Plath, embrace your own rhythm, natural metaphors, subjects igniting your passion. Your unique lens is your most powerful tool. The literary landscape thrives on new voices, not echoes. Each perspective adds a vibrant thread to the human story, deepening its texture. Your poem, however humble, can resonate profoundly. It is an act of courage and connection. Call to action, keep the ink flowing. Think back to the very first poem that truly captivated you. Remember that shiver, that moment of profound connection, the feeling that words could do that. We've journeyed through the craft, dissecting meter, exploring metaphor, and unearthing the soul of verse. But knowledge, left unpracticed, is like an unplayed melody. Now, as our final notes sound, it's not an ending, but a vibrant, resounding call to action, to pick up the baton and conduct your own poetic symphony. First, pick up a pen immediately. Don't let inspiration fade. Your mind is brimming. Grab a notebook, free write for 5 minutes. Don't censor, just let words flow, a thought, an image. This matters because inertia is poetry's greatest adversary. This immediate act bypasses the critical inner voice, transforming passive learning into active creation, embedding lessons. It validates your journey, one tangible word at a time. Secondly, I invite you to share your poetic heart. After reflection, please leave a review for this audiobook. I'd be thrilled if you shared your favorite poetic line, one we discussed, one that inspired you, or even your own creation. For example, my favorite line is, "The silence between notes holds the truest song." This sharing is more than feedback, it's a vital contribution to our poetic community. It connects us through language, illuminating what sparks fire in others. Your line will inspire new listeners, strengthening our shared appreciation. Finally, consider art's enduring power. Poetry isn't just creation, it's legacy. I leave you with Henry David Thoreau, "It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see." This encapsulates the poet's journey. True poetry lies in cultivating unique perception, finding the extraordinary in the ordinary, giving it voice. Your unique seeing is your most invaluable poetic tool. Keep observing, feeling, writing. Let your ink flow, the world awaits your vision. Thank you for listening to this audiobook. If you found value, meaning, or inspiration in this journey, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter. Your support helps us bring more timeless classics to life. See you in the next reading.